Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie, your Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
I'm doing fantastic, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing great. We have a great episode for you guys today, and before we really get into the deep stuff of this episode, I wanted to quickly talk about a director who I've been a fan of for years now at this point, and Will's also a fan of, Wes Anderson, who is releasing his newest film, The Phoenician Scheme, next week, June 6th. I believe it is, and it's being met with some mixed reviews. They premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and received a 6.5 minute standing ovation, which in Cannes Film Festival terms is actually not that long of a standing ovation, which to us non-Cannes Film Festival goers, right? We're not going to that festival. That just sounds absurd, but I mean, I guess that's what it is. I guess that length of a standing ovation means your movie isn't as good as some other ones, which whatever. But looking at some of the reviews, yeah, they haven't been very positive at all. I've seen a lot of people been saying this is the most Wes Anderson movie, and obviously, as a Wes Anderson fan, I don't see a problem with that. But maybe your everyday movie goer might have a problem with that if they're not familiar with Wes's style or whatever it may be. But I still haven't seen it yet because it comes out next week. So it could actually probably, or not probably, it could be too Wes Anderson-y for me. And that would be disappointing. That would be really disappointing. People are saying that this movie is essentially just a straight up comedy, which I'm not loving that idea of. But what this sounds like to me, this sounds like Wes Anderson isn't doing enough to change things up.
hmm
Every new Wes movie, right? Ever since I don't know, like the French Dispatch, starting there, it's just felt kind of more of the same. All of them have been high quality, very well made, obviously, good movies or short films. If we're talking about some of the Roald Dahl short stories that he adapted, um, they've all been good, but they've all felt kind of the same. And with each new release, we've kind of gotten the same thing. This feels more Wes Anderson-y than ever. And it gets more and more of a real Wes Anderson movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't even know how much more Wes Anderson can get after this, because from what I've heard, this is something crazy and the most Wes Anderson has ever been. I don't know. I think after this movie, Wes should take a break. Unless I love this movie, unless this movie is great and it's totally my thing. I'm doubting it's gonna be one of my favorite Wes movies, but I'm still having my expectations there. I'm leaving room for it to become one of my favorite Wes movies, definitely. But what I think he needs to do, he needs to take a few years off, because if you look at his release schedule, he's releasing, like, I don't know, a movie a year, every year and a half. He's getting either a short film, movie, whatever. And that was kind of starting with, at the French Dispatch era, which, if you'll recall, is when I said his movie started feeling kind of samey in the best Wes Anderson way possible, you
hmm
know? So maybe with a break, with some readjustment time, he'll be able to kind of figure something else out. Make a different sort of movie with different tones, and that, I think, is what the Wes Anderson fandom needs. I think we need something different. Because if you look back at movies like, I don't know, Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, then look at Asteroid City and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, it's totally different. And maybe this is just the era Wes is in right now, which is what I've actually kind of been thinking. The era is that he's in right now is this not overproduced in the best way possible style, this Wes Anderson style. That just might be what's on his mind right now, and he might actually change it up after this one. But it remains to be seen what he's gonna do in the future. And I mean, whatever he does do, I'm almost positive it's not going to be bad. And I respect, as I've said multiple times on this podcast, I respect every director who's doing something crazy and unique more than a director who's following the prescribed script from the movie studio. You know what I mean? And I respect that way more. And automatically doing something as crazy as Wes is doing gives you points in my book. I feel like. Are you? Is this a highly anticipated movie for you, Will?
Uh, Not at the moment for me, because I would say for me, when I think about Wes Anderson movies that I really enjoyed, like Rushmore or Moonrise Kingdom, they have those Wes Anderson quirky elements to them, but there's a there's a reality and a humanness to them, I
I
feel like,
agree.
too,
Yeah.
and characters that I can get behind. And then like his recent projects like Asteroid City and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, they're just almost like, just for me and my style, they're a bit too quirky for me, to
I
where
know what you mean.
I can't get into it the same that I can get into a movie like Rushmore, to where it has quirky elements to it, but the characters still feel real enough to me. So I would say, for me personally, if Wes is gonna go and make more movies like Rushmore or Moonrise Kingdom, then I'll totally be there and I will totally check them out. But for now, I'm just drifting away from him because I think he's getting kind of too quirky, to where his characters keep getting more and more unrealistic, and
Yeah.
more and more feeling like not actual human characters, which I think is why you're seeing a movie like the one he's coming out with this year be at a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb and a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, because with the types of movies Wes Anderson's making right now, it's impossible that they're going to appeal to every single movie fan. There are going to be some people who are going to be really into his style, and then there are going to be other people who I think just aren't going to be as into it. So that's just where I feel like Wes Anderson is at right now. I mean, I'm not saying he's expecting this to be the case, but I don't like, as long as Wes Anderson continues to make the types of movies that he's making right now, I don't think he can expect them to be these critically acclaimed films, because it's impossible that his style is going to be for every single movie fan right now. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the realistic characters is kind of what I was trying to hit on.
Right.
But yeah, if you look at maybe even starting with Asteroid City to French Dispatch era, I'd say starting with Asteroid City, it's starting to feel way less realistic in the way these characters are written.
Yeah.
And that just could be Wes experimenting with this, and that's totally a possibility. And that's something I'm open to seeing a little bit more of with this movie, The Phoenician Scheme. But it gets to a point where you can't always have style over substance, which has
Yeah.
been an argue for Wes Anderson haters or dislikers or whatever you want to call them. That's what their argument has been for years. He's style over substance, which I am quick to say is just, or I have been in the past, quick to say that that's just blatantly not true. I mean, if you watch Moonrise Kingdom, if you watch the Royal Tenenbaums, it's obviously not true. The Royal Tenenbaums is a very character-driven movie, but honestly, if you're looking at these Asteroid City short stories and to a point, French Dispatch, yeah, honestly, it is feeling a little bit style over substance, which, as a Wes Anderson fan, is pretty upsetting to actually say because that's been the argument for all the Wes Anderson haters out there. Um, so yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but I think after this, and like I said, still haven't seen this movie, could be exactly what I want it to be, or it could not. Whatever, we'll see. Maybe he's really changing it up here. I don't know. I can't say that for myself. What it's sounding like is he's not. I think he needs to do something to just switch it up, make a more character driven movie, and then we'll talk. Then we'll talk about the Wes Anderson hate and just point out how completely unjustified and ridiculous the style over substance claim usually is for Wes. Anyway, moving on from Wes Anderson, we have to talk about, or Will mostly has to talk about, a movie that honestly you've been not excited for, but interested to see, right, Will? That's a good way
Yeah,
to put it.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
So Karate Kid Legends
Ooh, yeah.
has just premiered in the theater, and Will has seen it. I have not seen it, as I stated last episode. I got a little worked up about that and kind of proclaimed that I'm not gonna be seeing this movie in the movie theater. I'm still probably not gonna see it at the movie theater, but I haven't heard Will in depth talk about his review for this movie. So maybe I'll be convinced to see this. I probably won't, but this movie debuted with a 6.6 on IMDb, and if you'll actually check the Rotten Tomatoes score, as a 57% critic score, but an 88% audience score. So, what even are these reviews anymore? It's so random. Who knows? But what Will knows. Will knows. He saw this movie the other day. Will, what are your thoughts on this Karate Kid Legends movie that we've been talking about and building up, I guess, to a point on this podcast for so long?
Yeah, so as I said to you before this episode started, Cam, I feel like the Miyagi verse, which I'm obviously including Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid movies when I say the Miyagi verse. I feel like it came to such a culmination at the end of Cobra Kai season
Definitely.
5. Like, Johnny gets his moment where he's getting his ass kicked by Terry Silver's goons, and it looks like he's going to go down. And then he sees the photo of his kid, and that just awakens something in Johnny, and he has, I think, one of his most just badass fight scenes ever. I love that scene where Johnny gets revenge on Terry Silver's goons at the end of season 5. I thought that was the perfect kick-ass Johnny Lawrence scene. But what everything had been building to in that 5th season was Daniel versus Terry Silver, and Daniel ultimately defeating Terry Silver with the crane kick. And I feel like everything culminated in that moment when Daniel defeated Terry Silver with the crane kick at the end of season 5. I don't know how you can get more epic than that. It just felt like everything culminated in such a big epic way in that moment that it left you thinking, what more was there to do? And Cobra Kai season 6, through its first 5 episodes, I thought proved that point completely. I thought part 1 of Cobra Kai season 6 I thought those were the worst 5 episodes of the entire show. I didn't like anything about them. But then season 6 part 2 came along, and I'm like, okay, I still wish this season wasn't made, but it's starting to pick up steam a little bit with bringing Terry Silver
Yeah.
back and the whole brawl that breaks out at the Saikai Tag Guy. I was like, okay, like they're starting to, I mean, this is not nearly as good as the first 5 seasons, but this is at least better than part 1. And then part 3 of season 6 came out, and I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
this is still a flawed season, but they've been able to, but I thought they were able to rebound in a good enough way in season 6, part 3, and have some super satisfying wins for Miguel and Tori and Johnny, and an epic ending to John Kreese and
Yeah.
Terry Silver's storylines in that boat scene. So I was like, okay, still wish season 6 wasn't made, but at least they were able to rebound at least a little bit in part 2, and especially part 3. And then the first poster for Karate Kid Legends came out, and the first trailer for Karate Kid Legends came out, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this looks great. Maybe it's not going to be a money grab. Maybe this is actually going to be a great movie. But then ever since the second trailer for Karate Kid Legends came out, right away I was just like, oh no, this movie is not going to be good. I just knew it right from the second trailer, and I feel I was proven completely right and I will say this. I don't think, like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to say that any Karate Kid movie is worse than Karate Kid 3. I just think that is a very, very flawed Karate Kid movie. So I think that one will probably always get last place for me. But I think an argument could genuinely be made that this is the not the worst Karate Kid movie, but I think an argument could be made that this is the second worst Karate Kid movie. And my reason why is this: all the other I can't like all the other Karate Kid movies. I think most, if not all of them, are at least 2 hours long, or maybe like an hour and 45 minutes, or an hour and 50 minutes. So it may be a flawed movie, but you're at least feeling like you get to spend time with the characters in the film. This Karate Kid Legends movie, this to me is its biggest flaw above everything else. This movie to me felt like it was made for a generation of moviegoers who have no attention spans. I'm talking people who are spending their days going on their phones, watching TikTok videos and YouTube shorts that are like a minute long. This to me felt like a movie that was trying to appeal to people who had no attention spans whatsoever. This movie was I think it clocked in at an hour and 34 minutes, and that to me is this movie's biggest flaw above everything else. This movie was an hour and a half when I feel it could have easily been 2 to 2.5 hours. This movie was it felt like it was moving at such a fast pace to where I didn't get time to really develop care or compassion for any of the characters in the film, because I felt like I barely even got to spend time with or really get to know any of them, because the movie was an hour and a half when I feel like it could have easily been 2 to 2.5 hours. And then I'm watching the interactions between Daniel and Mr. Han in this movie, and like 50, I'd say like 50% of the time they're having those two characters get along, but then like another 50% of the time they're having those two characters bickering and arguing, and they're going for like a comedic effect with them, and I'm like, what are we doing? We literally just spent 6 seasons of Cobra Kai doing that exact storyline with Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, and we can't just do it again. That's repeating a storyline that's already been done. So that that drove me crazy, and I just and this is the final thing I will say for now about this movie. There is not a bigger. I don't feel there's a bigger critique you can give to a film than to say that a character who barely even got any screen time was the best part of the movie. And that's what I genuinely feel about this one particular character in Karate Kid Legends, who is not a primary character, not a secondary character. I would say this is a tertiary character, like a third tier character in this Karate Kid Legends movie. This character is a friend to the new Karate Kid, played by Ben Wong, and he's also his tutor for the SAT tests. This character's name is Alan. He is played by an actor named Wyatt Olip, who actually played I found out, a young Peter Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy, which was interesting to find out. I am telling you, I thought this character stole the show in every scene he was in. I can be very critical of comedic characters who are not written well, and I can especially be critical of a comedic character appearing in a movie like Karate Kid Legends, which is supposed to be a drama instead of a comedy. But I just feel like once in a while you have an actor who is given a character who doesn't appear in a film that much, but he's able to but that actor is able to like pull out everything that he possibly could from that character. And that is what I thought Wyatt Olive did with the character he played in Karate Kid Legends. You know, very, very quirky, nerdy, comedic character. Didn't appear on screen that much, and yet I thought he stole the show in every scene he was in because I thought his performance was just so funny. And the comedic scenes, you know, between Daniel and Mr. Han, those scenes were driving me crazy because I felt like they shouldn't have even been in the movie. But I thought the comedic scenes with Wyatt Olaf's character in the film worked perfectly. So credit to him for squeezing everything that he could out of a character who isn't even in the movie that much. But that's also the problem with this film. The fact that, in my opinion, the best part of the movie was a character who didn't even appear on screen that much, that is a problem. And the last thing I'll say is that in Cobra Kai Season 6, I had such an issue with some of the new villains that they brought in, like Sensei Wolf and Zara and Axel and Quan, because I thought they were just one-dimensional villains who didn't really get much backstory, and I just didn't think they were well-written villains. And I can unfortunately say that Karate Kid Legends continues this trend. The villain in this movie, this guy named Connor, who they have Lee Fong, the new Karate Kid, fight, I thought he was just a horribly written, one-dimensional villain, and it was so sad to see the movie continue that bad trend that I thought was set up with Cobra Kai Season 6. And also, like, what's driving me crazy with Cobra Kai Season 6 and now continuing into Karate Kid Legends is like the first 5 seasons of Cobra Kai, there were preposterous things going on in them, but like I was still but I thought they still felt realistic enough to where I could believe in the story. And now with Cobra Kai Season 6 and Karate Kid Legends, like there are some things happening sometimes where I'm just like, this just doesn't feel that realistic to me. This feels like we're stretching it a bit. So as much as I want to say that I enjoyed Karate Kid Legends, I just unfortunately can't say that because I felt like it was a movie that was made for people with short attention spans. I feel like it was an hour and a half when it should have easily been 2 to 2.5 hours, and I thought I just didn't really get the chance to really care about any of the characters in the film, and when the best part of a movie is a character who's barely even on screen that much, that's a major problem.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, well, I just want to break down what happened with us and the podcast and this Karate Kid movie, just for people who maybe haven't seen whatever. So let's start with a quick summary. We were right, but we started this with the announcement, the Ralph Macchio video that was put out, whatever.
Yep.
Our first thoughts: this doesn't need to happen. This is unnecessary. I'm interested to see what they'll do. We hear more news about it. They don't need to make this movie. Still interested. First trailer comes out. It's really one of the best trailers I've seen in recent memory.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, kind of not false advertising. I don't want to put it that far, but it definitely made us think that the movie was one thing when, based off what you're saying, it is a completely different thing. So we had about, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 month period of, okay, I'm excited, not excited, I think this is going to be a good movie. We'll put it at that. I think this is going to be better than we thought. Second trailer comes out, more promo, back to square one. actually lower than square one. Actually, we are no longer interested in this movie. And then we get the reviews, and we're just consistently thinking, not gonna be a good movie, not gonna be a good movie. And here we are. Wasn't a good movie. But
No.
I do have some questions for you, as I have gotten this movie spoiled. I don't
Yeah.
care, honestly. I didn't care. In fact, I shouldn't say I got it spoiled. I looked up spoilers just to see if there were any Cobra Kai ties or whatever. Because that, honestly, at this point, is what I'm most interested in about this movie. I don't. I'm going to watch it. I'm just because of the podcast, because of the Karate Kid Cobra Kai fan that I am to a point. Um, so two things I want to
Yeah.
address. One of them's less of a spoiler than the other, but one of them is that how long would you say Ralph Macchio was in the movie?
Uh, I'd say like I'd say he doesn't show up until at least an hour in. I would say he's in like I would say he's in the final part of it, so I would say he's not even in it that much, and I thought all of the scenes were super rushed.
Great, yeah, that what an awesome. That's just great. In a movie that's an hour and a half shows up an hour in. That's awesome. That's what you really want to see, right? And then there's an end credit scene, correct? Oh, spoiler warning.
Yeah,
Now,
I would say there's technically two end credit scenes. This movie stole something from Cobra Kai season 6. Cobra Kai season 6, the final episode of the season, they have a scene where Johnny's in the Cobra Kai dojo talking to his students, and then they show the Cobra Kai logo, and then they go to the final scene of the show where Daniel and Johnny are out at a restaurant having a conversation. That's what Karate Kid Legends does. They show Lee Fong winning his fight at the end of the movie. Then they show the Karate Kid Legends logo, and then they have two, I guess you could call them post credit or post logo showing scenes.
okay, that makes sense. Um, so one of them, I know one. Johnny Lawrence does make an appearance, right?
Yes. Yes.
I know that. I don't know what he says. Does he give? Does he relate? Does Johnny Lawrence in this Karate Kid movie? Does he give us any new important information? Is this a good scene?
It doesn't really. It's just
Right.
kind of it's just kind of Daniel and Johnny having a regular like jokey
Awesome.
bantery exchange. It's not setting up anything for the future
Oh, that's
anything
fantastic.
like that. And like I will say this, like I thought like like Johnny Lawrence is a character who will say like jokey comedic things. But there was even an element of me where I was like, I don't want to like even though it was just kind of playful banter and they weren't like actually like upset with each other, it was just kind of more, those guys kind of playfully joking with each other. But there was so I thought there were good elements to it, but I was also like, I kind of just want to see a scene where these two are just getting along and having a regular conversation at this point, because we've seen so much of this in Cobra Kai to where there was one part of me that kind of liked it, but there was another part of me that was like, know what? Just do a scene where these two characters are having a regular conversation. So like I'd say I'd say I have mixed feelings on the scene.
Okay. Everything I hear about this movie just makes it sound worse. You know what I wish they did? I wish this movie didn't exist. And I wish they made a few years down the line, maybe 3 or 4 years after Cobra Kai ended. We have some time to sit with it. We're starting to want more Karate Kid. We do a show sequel. We do something building on where the characters left off with Johnny, with Ralph. Maybe one final big movie. Or maybe start a little movie series. I don't know. But not this. Not this at all. It's just very upsetting what this movie is now. But it is what it is. And quickly, before we wrap up this episode of the Everything Podcast, I just wanted to briefly talk about some, and from my point of view, some more positive news, right?
Yep.
Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, right,
Yep.
have been delayed a few months. Um, I think round of applause. Great decisions from Marvel. You know what this is, Will? This is Marvel seeing a problem. Oh, this could be too rushed, and then doing something about it. Push
Yep.
it back a few months. That, I think, is what Marvel has been missing for, or starting, the whole you know how there was the whole Bob Iger thing making too
Yep.
many
Yep.
projects during that phase of Marvel, that little era needed this. They needed to be able to identify these problems and address them in a way that doesn't actively hurt the universe. Um, Great decision making. I've heard some troubling things on the set. They're working with an unfinished script. They're hiding a lot from the cast. You know what would help that? Give them more time to work on the movie and flesh
Yep.
things out. Perfect. I guess the only downside is we have to wait longer. Yeah, but it builds it up more for me. I think. I think I'll just be more excited by the time it rolls around. So
Yeah.
honestly, worse things have happened. Worse things have definitely happened. Overall, for the MCU, this is good news. For us fans, might be less great. You're fine. I assume you're fine with this news, right? Well,
Oh yeah, I'm in total agreement with everything that you said, Cam. And look, do I still have my concerns about Avengers Doomsday and
sure.
Avengers Secret Wars? Yes, I do. That being said, I'm still going to 100% applaud Marvel for this decision because as you were saying, Cam, it just like if the scripts are not finished and stuff like that, it just buys them more time. It allows them more time to make both movies a better version of themselves. So I mean, I think this is, Marvel addressing the quality over quantity issue, and I think that's fantastic. And I think this will hopefully at least, even if they're even if they're not great movies, I hope this, even if they're not great movies, I hope that they will be at least a bit better now that they've been delayed than they would have been if they had stuck with the initial May 2026 and May 2027 release date. So I'm right with you. I think for Marvel, this was a great decision. And I'm also so excited about next year because Bob Iger came out, and I think I remember him. I forget what the exact number was, but it sounded to me like Bob Iger was aiming for maybe like two shows a year, two movies a year. I forget what his exact number was, but based off of what Bob Iger came out and said, I was shocked to see three animated projects from Marvel this year, three live action shows from Marvel this year, three movies from Marvel this year. I was like, boy, that sounds like the complete opposite of what Bob Iger was aiming for Marvel Studios to do. So I don't know what Marvel on the small screen next year will look like, but when I look at Marvel on the big screen next year and the only movies that are scheduled to be released are Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday, I think that is perfect. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
perfect approach for Marvel because I think, I just think, on the topic of superhero fatigue, I think people will still see a superhero movie if it's well done, but I also feel like we've seen these stories so many times now that we're not asking for them as much as we were in the past. And I think Marvel only having two movies scheduled to come out next year, one of which isn't even fully their movie because it's a collaboration with Sony for Spider-Man
Yeah,
Brand New
yeah.
Day. It's the perfect plan. Will they move forward with it? I don't know, but only coming out with two movies next year, kind of following that path of only coming out with Deadpool and Wolverine last year. I think it's a great plan, and I hope they continue with it.
Same here. Super excited for the future of Marvel at this point. We've had Thunderbolts great, Fantastic Four looking to be great. Really happy they've course corrected here. And with that, thank you all for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thank you for joining me as always, and we'll see you next week.